Hello. Here I am, Lorraine Sish here, Stampin' Up demonstrator with stampwithlorraine.com. Sorry I cannot see you face to face today. My camera facing me on my laptop is not responding for some reason. So the most important thing is that we can see here and we can see the projects. But we're whipping up something really quick today, as usual, on Whip It Up Wednesday. And I am going to show you how this sort of came about. I was creating a card with the new Petals of Beauty stamp set and dies. But actually, I was using just the dies for this particular card. And I had cut out the dies that didn't all necessarily match up with the stamps. So there were independent dies with this leaf sprig and this one, which this one does match up with one of the stamps here, but that's okay. I was using those so that I could just put them on a card. And then I was left with this after doing the die cut, right? So let me show you on a darker piece of paper. Oh, I will show you on this. There we go. Okay, so this was what I was left with. This was sitting on my desk, and I said, oh, we can use this negative space like a stencil. So I decided to make our card for Whip It Up Wednesday with this that was just left over on my desk. So if you don't already have something like this, or if you didn't use or if you want to do it ahead of time, then that was something that you can do. You can do your die cuts, use that on something else, and then you will have this stencil left over. So here's one of the pieces that would come out of there, and then I happened to go over it with some blending brush and some Night of Navy ink. So that's why it looks dark, and it was vanilla. All right. So this is what you would get from die cutting that. So let's use this as a stencil. Why throw it away? So that's how I came up with this card. So either do this ahead of time, or when you do cut out something, say it's a negative space, and reuse that as well, and that will be a big time saver for you. So this is the card I ended up doing. First, I did some in Night of Navy. I did some in Mossy Meadow, and I did one in Cajun Craze. Just using the stencil, keeping a really clean and simple look. Very, very plain, not fancy, not overloaded, clean and simple. I love it. You can make a whole set of these with different sentiments. Speaking of sentiments, the sentiments I'm using are from a new set that's available November 4th called Banner Sayings. This 2025, by the way, November 4th, 2025. This is online exclusives. And there is a 3-banner punch, which punches out obviously 3 different banners that you can use, and they all fit with the sentiments that are on here. This is the new packaging, by the way, a little taller and wider than our other sleeves that held the dies. But now the dies and the stamp sets will have the same size packaging. Okay, so I'm going to use on this one, what did I pick? Consider yourself hugged. Okay, there are a lot of sentiments on here. You are loved. Consider yourself hugged. Wishing you good things. Happy birthday. I'm so grateful. You're the sweetest. I can't thank you enough. Here's to you. Those are all in regular print. Then in the scripts, we have cue the confetti, celebrate, sending my love. You did it. I'm here for you. Thanks a million. All in very small, delicate sizes there. So you can see it kind of fits with the feel, the vibe of these cards. Very minimal, very plain, and not overdone. So we are going to try one this time Okay, these are kind of earthy tone cards. We're going to do one that might have a tropical vibe using all the same layout. So I have chosen, we're using very vanilla, by the way. I often use white, but with those earthy tones, and because there was a lot of it, I thought the vanilla toned it down a little bit, wasn't quite as stark. So we have 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4.25. Then we have a colored layer that is 3.75 by 5. I purposely wanted to leave a wider border around here than we sometimes do. Again, otherwise it might have had too much. I don't know, it just breaks up the space a little bit more. And then we have 3.5 by 4.75. That's what we will be stamping on. And then we have a strip that is 1/2 by 3.75. That will go across once we do the, well, not stamping, but the stenciling. And then we need a scrap that's going to cut out our sentiment with one of these banners here. Now, when you unlock the Stampin' Up punches, they pop up, and this will cut out all 3 at once if you have a piece of paper large enough. There you go. Probably even have room for more if you do it this way. And you're all set. Look at all those that you can get, right? So then you have these, you can stamp on them, or what you can do is, if you only want one, you don't want to keep all those extras, choose a piece that's thin enough, hold your punch upside down, and then you can just fit it in there and punch that out. Now, sometimes I like to stamp my sentiment first and then punch it because I can line it up a little bit better. And if I stamp it and it doesn't come out so well, then I can just move over and do it on another part of that scrap. So these, I'll just put in a little bin next to me and save them for another card. And let's get to our stenciling. Okay, so you can use a piece of cardstock and cut out your die, what you're going to use. And I did that for a couple of them. I actually used the thick vanilla for this one. And to get this leaf to go in the other direction, the first time I did it like this, and then I flipped it over. But sometimes this can smudge a little bit, so you have to be careful. And I flipped it over so that the sprigs can curve in different directions. So when you are doing this for yourself, if you're thinking up ahead of time, use your die in one direction, flip the cardstock over, and then die cut it from the back. Okay, so let me just show you real quick. So I die cut that out, and I flipped it over, and I die cut it this way. So now I have them going both directions, and I don't have to flip it over and potentially get some of this ink rubbed off on the paper. Another option you can do is to use some clear window sheets or acetate and do the same thing. This way, you can just rinse this in water and then use it again with different colors. As long as you just pat it dry and be careful not to pick up on these little points or damage those. When you're using these, I would not go over this with a different color because it might come off on my brush or might bleed over. So if I use this again, I will only do it with the Cajun Craze. And my other one I would do just with the blue. Okay, so I'm going to use the one with the acetate right now, and I'll show you how that works. Taking this piece here that again is 3.5 by 4.75. I'm going to do one sprig going in this direction and the other one going in that direction to spread them out just a little bit. All right, I'm going to position this right where I want it. And I just am partial to not having the stem kind of hanging in the air. If you notice on Let me grab my other cards here. The first one that I did was the Mossy Meadow, and I did put it kind of, it was hanging up in the air, so I made sure I covered that piece, use that piece to cover up the bottom, so it kind of looks like it's growing out of there rather than us seeing the bottom of the stem. And then this one I made sure I started lower. On the other cards, I started way at the bottom so that they're all coming up from the bottom of my cardstock. But that's totally up to you what you want to do. So we're going to do this one in Coastal Cabana. Maybe that will give it more of a Caribbean vibe, islandy feel. So I will open up my ink pad and I will take my blending brush. Now, the last time I used this was with the Night of Navy, so I'm just going to rub it a little bit, see if I can get some of that Night of Navy off. And now that it's rubbing kind of clean, I'm fine to start picking up my Coastal Cabana. So we are just going to position the stencil, curving to the left, positioning it however you want it. Now I'm going to be careful not to go onto the stencil over here, which, as you're blending, well, it doesn't matter because that's on the scrap paper anyway, but I want to make sure I don't go off the edge here. So if you're worried about that, do separate stencils or make your acetate a little bit bigger. Okay, so you want to ink up a little, but then you want to tap off the major part of the ink and then start away from the opening of the stencil and then work your way in. Remember, you can always add more ink, but you can't take it away. And you want to start moving your blending brush across the openings very lightly. Start off and then move in. Start in motion first. Okay, now I'm going to make this first one a little darker so that I have some contrast when I do the next one a little bit lighter. And it's nice to have contrast in the shading even within this one stencil too. So I am making it a little bit lighter up on top, a little bit darker down below, especially that's where my other one's going to overlap. Maybe a little darker on the inner parts. I want to make sure that it looks good. So I'm just going to hold this and you can take a little peek underneath and see what it looks like. It's beautiful. I love the shading on there. A little darker down below and lighter up on top. Looks really, really nice. Okay, now remember, the ink will not stick to this acetate, which has good and bad points. Good part is you can just rinse it underwater and it will flow right off. The bad part is if I touch it now, I'm going to get it all over my fingers. So I am going to be very careful about that. I'm going to make this one come over to the side a little bit. I crisscross a little at the bottom. You can decide how much of an angle you want it to be. But I do want the whole leaf up there. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter. I'll hold that in place. And like I said, I want this one to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to start very, very light. Like I said, you can always add, but you can't take it away. Again, I want this to have some variation in shading within the sprig itself. And let's take a look there. Ooh, it's really pretty. I like that it's very light. I'm going to put this in a safe place so I can take it to the sink in a couple minutes when I'm done with my card. I'm just going to brush off some of the extra ink on here. Close up my, no, I'm not going to close up my ink pad because we have to do the sentiment, right? All right, so I'm using Consider Yourself Hugged. I'm a hugger. How about you? Okay, so I stamped that pretty well. Now I'll close up my ink and I'll use my punch to punch that out. So now I can line it up right where I want it. Make sure it's straight. When you stamp it, sometimes we know it doesn't always come out straight, right? But this way, I have a better chance at it. Okay, this 3 3/4 by 5 will be the mat. I'll put it on here. Just like that. Now, if you wanted, you could pop this up with dimensional dots. That could give it some nice dimension, as the name says. But I'm just going to glue it down because I'm keeping it simple right now. I am going to pop up the sentiments. So that's enough for this clean and simple card. You don't want to overdo. Right, this will go across the bottom. You can decide how high up you want it. I know there's a lot of white space up here, but I kind of like that for that really clean look. Minimalist. Okay, so I'd say there's probably about 3/4 of an inch down here, but you just put it where you think your eye should be. Now this banner obviously is vanilla also. It's very, very light. So when I don't want it to go on the white, it's on the vanilla itself. So I'm going to overlap it with this band. I'm going to make sure I have it low enough so that I can see the banner cut is highlighted against the Coastal Cabana. And maybe for this one, I'll move it a little bit more to the left. The others I had on the right. So that's just another option. I'm going to put 3 mini dimensionals on here. And for these mini guys, I like using my pick tool to pick them up. I just get under, hold them with my finger, and then pull them off that way. 1, 2, 3. Oh, these are good for picking them up too. Sometimes I use my finger, sometimes I use this. Just poke it and then pull it up. Off it comes. Nice that you can get them all on the same point all at once. We'll put this a little bit on this side, low enough so that I could see that banner cut. So that's highlighted because that's the feature of that banner. And then we have such a very clean and simple card. Now, if you really wanted to bump it up a little bit, if that's a little too clean and simple, you can put some embellishments, of course. And a couple that I found that could work with this card are, there's frosted iridescent dots, which are pretty new also. And although Stampin' Up says that they are balmy blue, it still is, because of the iridescence, you have a lot of shading in there, and that could certainly work very well on here. Or I might suggest some, the plain rhinestone basic jewels could be pretty on here also. So, yeah, I'm not sure. I think I would like them both. I'll have to just choose one for now and then do one up with the other later. I'll just go with the rhinestones because I haven't used those in quite a while. And the other nice feature of the Take Your Pick tool, you have your pointer part at one end and you have your putty end over here. And these are nice for just picking up your embellishments, touch them, and kind of swipe it up and it sticks to here. Now that adhesive is stickier than the putty. So when you go to put it down, it comes right off like that. Right, so these have 3 different shapes, sizes. So I am going to choose the small ones. I'm going to do 2 of the smaller ones and 1 of the medium size and keep it real simple and plain to keep the vibe of that card going. So look how pretty, if you want that little bit of sparkle on there to kick it up just a notch or so. So here we go. I hope you enjoy that. So next time you die cut something, think of what's left in that negative space and then put it aside. You can whip up a really quick card that way. I hope you like that. Thanks for whipping it up with me today, and I hope to see you next time.